Hello. Now, I bet you can guess what our assembly theme is for this week. Yeah, because we've got the lovely news that this weekend is going to be the coronation of King Charles III as our king. Now, what's that word coronation mean? Put your hand up in class, see if you can share with somebody what it means. That's right. It's the official ceremony, the official moment when we say that King Charles is the king. We have this kind of big parade, and there's a service in church, and all of these sorts of things. But actually, King Charles has been the king from the moment that Queen Elizabeth died. So it's kind of happens immediately. But this is an official thing. And King Charles is going to promise that he's going to do his best for everybody in the country. And people in the country get the chance to promise that they will follow the rules, do the things that you're supposed to do, and be good citizens. And it's about citizenship. Now, we've had kings and queens in the country for hundreds and hundreds of years. But I wonder if we know a lot about King Charles. So I'm going to read you a little bit about King Charles. I was really chuffed. Mr. Garner popped into my office and said, "You've been using these Little People Big Dreams books. There's a new one about King Charles." It's like, brilliant. I was so pleased that he shared that with me, because it's always really good to share a really good book with people, to find there's a new one. And for this one, I haven't read it. Now, some of these stories that I read to you, I've read before, kind of prepared it. This one, I'm really excited at the same time as you, because this is completely new for me. So I'm going to enjoy a good book at the same time as you guys. So, King Charles. Here we go. There he is. When little Charles Philip Arthur George was born, the bells at Westminster Abbey rang out for a royal birth. He was the first son of the future Queen of the United Kingdom, which meant one day he would be king. And that's interesting, because at the time, the Queen wasn't the Queen, the future Queen of the United Kingdom. So at that point, his mum wasn't on the throne. His mother became queen when he was 3, and he was named Prince of Wales 6 years later. So his granddad died when he was 3, and he was, some of you are 9 now, and at 9, some of you might be Writer of the Week, or you might get the Star of the Week certificate, but he was named Prince of Wales. I don't think any of us have done anything quite that impressive, have we? While his parents were busy with their royal duties, the Queen's mother gave him all the hugs he needed. She also encouraged his love for art, music, and nature. His father was a practical man who wanted his son to stand on his own 2 feet, so he sent him to a boarding school where the future king could rub shoulders with other boys. Far from home, Charles felt quite alone. So instead of a school like Wincham, where you come in the morning and you go home at the end of the day, Charles went to a boarding school, and that's a school where you'd sleep there. You stay away from your parents, and you would sleep and live with all of the other boys. There we go. We've got them all in uniform. Can you imagine being at a boarding school where you sleep in there? Because it sounds exciting. You watch the kind of TV or read books about boarding schools, and it sounds like a fun thing. But you've also got to bear in mind you're missing your mum and dad and your family. Things got better when Charles decided to go to university in Cambridge. He studied history and became the first royal to get a degree. So a degree is a qualification that you get when you're at university. It's really, really difficult. It takes 3 or 4 years to get. And he was the first member of the royal family to do that. I didn't know that. In his spare time, he explored his artistic side, performing in plays and concerts. Again, I didn't know he'd done that either. This is really cool. I love this book. It's nice to learn all of these new things. Wow. I wonder what's going on. So what do you think is happening in this picture? Talk to your partner. Hoping to be a good prince for the Welsh, Charles spent some time studying at a university in Wales. He wanted to learn about its people and its language, but many were not happy with his visit, and he was met by furious protesters. To get away from the attention, Charles took long walks into the mountains. All alone, surrounded by meadows, trees, and sheep, he was no longer the English-born prince, but just a young man falling in love with Wales. And there's lots of people I've spoken to recently who've been to Wales for visits. It's very close by. It's a gorgeous place. He promised himself to always do his best to protect those beautiful landscapes and the whole natural world. So before the global goals were even a thing, which global goals did King Charles think were really important? Work it out. Have a look at what the global goals are in your classroom and see if you need to have a think about something. Got life on land, got life underwater, got climate action, all of these things. And King Charles thinks these are really important, which is great. Charles was 21 when he gave his first speech defending the environment, long before global warming became a well-known issue. So he's using his position to try and have a positive impact. And he's actually being, in that sense, a global citizen, like we've been talking about in school. So after completing his duty serving in the Royal Navy, he used his final wages to create a charity that helps young people to fulfill their dreams. And the time came for Charles to find a wife to share his royal duties with. The day he got married, millions of people worldwide watched the ceremony on television. Lady Diana, his bride, looked like a fairy tale princess. Now, I remember that because I was your age when Charles married Diana. And we all had a big celebration. There was a big party in the street. It was a lot of fun. But the couple had very little in common and ended up separating. Sadly, Diana died 1 year after their divorce, leaving a deep hole in the hearts of their two sons, William and Harry, and of the whole world. When Charles married Camilla, his closest friend for 35 years, they bought a farm in Wales, far away from any palace. There he planted trees, talked to his plants, and ate organic food, inspiring others to live in harmony with nature too. And there's a scrapbook photo of penguins and trees and conferences about climate change. Charles worked on hundreds of good causes that needed his support. He brought governments and companies together to protect the environment and urged world leaders to do better to preserve our planet. As his mother grew older, Prince Charles took over more of her duties, from making speeches and meeting important visitors to travelling overseas. Charles was a 73-year-old grandfather when the Queen passed away, and he became king. From then on, he promised to serve his people with love and respect, just as he had done since he was a child. It had been a long journey for little Charles, and after a lifetime of preparing for the job, he hoped not to let anyone down. Can you imagine being a boy that age, sitting on that big throne thinking you're going to be king? So there we've got some of the photos of him when he was in the Navy and as a young boy, and meeting people in 2022. That was 1999 as a younger man. So really, really lovely story. And I learned so much about King Charles from that one. It was really nice to just share a really good book with you, because we do all like the Little People, Big Dreams books. Now, King Charles has been amazing because he has worked so hard for these things that he believes in, for climate change. And we can all do our own parts for climate change. We can make sure that we recycle, or we look at No Mow May, where people don't mow their lawns throughout the whole of May and let insects and wildlife come into the gardens. So these are things that we can do. But Prince Charles is doing stuff at his level as well. He's talking to governments. He's talking to world leaders. He's being a real global citizen. And he's being a role model for everybody in the country. He's saying that this is something that I think is really important, something that I believe in, and I want to do this as well. I think that's really, really good. So there's going to be more stuff this week where you're finding out about the king. You're going to be doing activities in class where we're talking about what King Charles might think was really important. I hope you've enjoyed reading the book with me as well. It's always good fun to read a new story together. Have a lovely day. Bye-bye.